Last time, when I tried to review the Moondrop Chu.
Oh no! Don't hype it, man. This is so going to create a shortage. I can't get it in for review if everyone else is grabbing one. Fine. I guess I'll order it early.
Whoa. Numerion doing a review of a hype train IM on time? What is this? Are we in an alternate universe? Nah. We still here. And yes, this time I got the Chu 2 in for review after lots of requests like here and here. But yes, after the release of the LAN, Moondrop basically quickly followed up with the sequel to the first Moondrop Chu, the Chu? No. The Chu 2. We have basically the same shell design, but this time with removable cables and revised guts and tuning. So let's see if the Chu 2 makes for a worthy sequel. Let's begin.
Okay, right off the bat, you see the anime waifu right on the front as always. But I don't know, this one to me feels like a downgrade from the Chu 1 box here, because this artwork is only in black and white, whereas this one's in color. Not much to the sides here, and the back here you have the graph and specifications. Flip the flap up and you'll get the Chu 2 placed in a foam insert. Take out the foam insert using the flap and you'll see a small cardboard box below. This one, when you open it up, it reveals to you the carrying pouch, which is the same one that I praised Moondrop for including in the Moondrop LAN review, so check that out if you have not done so. It's a nice pouch that will protect the Chu 2 from scratches, but I wouldn't trust it for much more. Inside said pouch will be the cable, which we'll get to later. And of course, you'll be getting 3 sizes of Moondrop's generic smoky narrow bore ear tips, which are pretty versatile tips, but a bit underwhelming considering that the first Chu gave you Moondrop spring tips. Going back to that box at the bottom here, you're getting an instruction manual that doubles as a warranty card. It's going to be ink printed in English and in Chinese in usual Moondrop fashion. Next up, you will have the QC check card. And finally, a little card with a full colored Chu 2 waifu. However, as you can see, mine, it came kind of bent and crumpled up like this. So there goes the resale value. Thanks.
I don't know, am I being a choosy beggar here? Because this whole Chu 2 unboxing kind of seems like a downgrade compared to the first Chu, along with a missed opportunity. Well, okay, first, we lost the spring tips. I heard some peeps say that this was a deliberate choice to match the Chu 2's sound with the generic smoky ear tips, but I don't buy it. And another thing we lost here is the excellent Moondrop Velcro cable tie. It used to feature on the corks, the SSP and the SSR. It got downgraded by the Chu 1, and now it's just gone. And finally, you have a full colored waifu here, but you didn't print it on the cover. What is this? Like, come on, why hide your really cool art in this small card here that's also crumpled up as well? But yeah, and then you make it black and white on the cover. And yeah, the top flap went from being clear plastic with sort of a cardboard lining in the Chu 1, which gave like a cool display case type of vibe, to now just being like a basic cardboard flap. Another step down. So for me, the Chu 2 unboxing experience is basically a downgrade from the Chu 1.
And now we can get to the Moondrop Chu 2. If the Chu 1 and the LAN made a baby together, what you come up with, the result would be the Chu 2. So you get the same shape as the Chu 1, along with the familiar black paint scheme, though this time with a slightly different pattern. Of course, with the same paint scheme also means that the familiar paint chipping issues will probably arise. My units here, they haven't exhibited such a phenomenon, luckily, but I've known of some that do, so be aware of that. What the Moondrop Chu 2 takes from the LAN, the little extension bit here, which contains 2-pin connectors, allowing you to, of course, swap cables, which is a long-running critique since the first Chu, now rectified. What's unique to the Chu 2 here is the nozzle. It's made of brass, looks very nice, and this time it has a screw-on nozzle cap which can be easily unscrewed, allowing for quick nozzle filter replacements, something that's also been criticized a lot with Moondrop IEMs for exhibiting volume imbalance issues. But there you go. And of course, I'm guessing that if you're daring, you can actually stuff foam balls in here to change the sound a little bit, so you have some modding potential here as well. I've also tried to listen to these IEMs with the nozzle cap just completely off, and well, basically you'll hear the upper mids go very hot, but you can try that if you want to. Now, Moondrop's never been known for making great cables, but recently they've really improved in this department. And the Chu 2's cable is also a welcomed upgrade. It's aesthetically pleasing with a silver glittery look. The wires are supple, they don't tangle much, and the microphonics are above average as well. The cons here though, it's something that's been wrong running with a lot of the Moondrop cables, which is there are no chin sliders. I really want one of those. And like I said before, there's no more Velcro cable tie. I want those too. I don't want this little metal wire thing, okay? Otherwise, the 3.5mm jack is a pretty standard rubberized clear jack. You know, you've seen this with a lot of Moondrop cables before, but overall, we get a really good cable that I would really consider even using on other IEMs as well.
Now, as for what source to use the Moondrop Chu 2, I'd say that the Chu 2 pretty much sounds the same out of all the sources that I tried, be it warm, bright, or neutral, and it can get decently loud with whatever you plug it in, so shouldn't matter too much. But you'll notice with the Chu 2 that we have slightly bigger nozzles than in Chu 1, so it'll be a bit harder to fit your tips on. Certainly not impossible, but a little bit harder. But the most noticeable change to sound when tip rolling here will be how well your ears seal, which will affect bass perception. Now with generic smoky Moondrop ear tips, they were fine, but not the most comfortable. Spring tips though, it really sealed my ears the best. I still feel like Moondrop should have included spring tips with the Chu 2. Although I guess they did boosted the bass a little too much. And of course what I'll be using for testing will be the good old reliable Acoustune AT07. It works great here. It gives me a good seal with just enough of a bass that doesn't go overboard. However, if you do feel that there's still too much bass here, we can use some generic wide bore ear tips. I think you'll have a bunch of these at your home because these are very generic. You'll find them in quite a few IEMs. These will help tame the bass a little bit to tune it to your preference. Now, with all that out of the way, let's get into the sound of the Moondrop Chu 2. Yes, from consulting the graphs beforehand, I was expecting a bass boost from the Chu 2. But what I didn't expect is that the Chu 2 is one of the first Moondrop IEMs to sound decently warm, which is more to my taste than ever before. So let's start with that bass boost, right? The bass on the Chu 2 is probably the biggest departure from not just the Chu or the LAN, but the whole Moondrop tuning philosophy. And I really dig it. Yes, there's a clear sub-bass rumble presence here, although the driver can sometimes find it hard to present it with much definition. The game changer here is the much more pronounced mid-bass, which I've always said has been neglected by many releases of recent years, which not only increases the impactfulness of kick drums, but also colors the lower mids with a bit of that extra warmth, which I've missed for a long while. Yes, it does kind of bleed into the lower mids a little bit, but I think it's quite well controlled here. This bass presentation is now fully ready to tackle heavier music like dubstep, and the wobbles inside bass house music is much more pronounced now. My only gripe here is that the Chu 2 kind of overdid it a bit with the boost, and a slightly gentler bass curve would have sufficed. Going to the mid-range, what the graphs don't show you is that the lower mid-range tonality of the Chu 2 has been influenced by the beefier mid-bass curve, and it's a good influence. It now sits closer to the warm territory, and I am all for this. This works a treat with stuff like the John Wick OST, if you've heard of it, Odessa's new album, and the gooey, comfy R&B that I'm recently listening to. And it gives music this atmospheric feeling that I've missed for a long time. The upper mid-range here is less impressive. It fixes the piercing artifact on male vocals that I criticized on the first Chu. However, it now has a hump near the sort of 3K to I think 5K region that makes vocals at times sound brittle and crunchy. This is not to say that this tuning decision made it so, but that the driver isn't really equipped to handle this kind of tuning. And it's more like you traded one flaw for another. Even if the upper mid-range here is a little bit less refined than usual, overall I absolutely adore this warmer tilt introduced into the lower mid-range, and it's certainly a breath of fresh air from other Moondrop releases, which have had a pretty neutral leaning to them. The treble on the Chu 2 is fine, in that it doesn't do anything wrong, no overboosting, no weird grainy roller coaster highs, just giving the music its needed vibrance and not overstaying its welcome. Cymbals get the zing in their sound, and there's only the slightest bit of sibilance that is done in a very acceptable way, which doesn't really harm the sound signature. The technical ability is no slouch too, but for the price, that is. It doesn't have very much in terms of high-end information, but with what little there is, it is well presented. Basically, I could copy and paste what I said about the Chu 1's treble over to the Chu 2. And well, I just did. If you haven't noticed, I've just repeated verbatim what I said about the first Chu's treble for the Chu 2, because yeah, they basically sound about the same to me. The soundstage width of the Chu 2 is again similar to its predecessor, being above average, but coupled with ever so slightly improved soundstage height portrayal. The noticeable improvement here would be the imaging. You take the Chu 1's imaging, which was the leader in its price tag, you add another 10%, and there you go. Detail retrieval though, it hasn't improved much over the 1 year gap of these releases. And the Chu 2, it continues to be a really solid performer that punches above its price thanks to good macro detail separation, along with some okay micro detailing too. Otherwise, the resolution of the Chu 2, it remains about the same as its older sibling, with maybe any perceived improvements kind of going down to the tuning changes more than anything else. And okay, I know you're all dying to know how the Chu 2 compares to the old Chu and the Lan. But hey, the vid's getting kinda long and I gotta milk that content, okay? So tell you what, I'll have a vid comparing the two Chus and the Lan coming in the future, alright? Stay tuned for that. So to cap it all off, very often in the Chifi world, we see brands releasing sequels that end up being worse than the ones that they were meant to replace. Tin Hi-Fi. Blom. What with the downgraded unboxing experience and the lack of spring tips from the first Chu, along with the relatively recent release of the Lan, I expected to be a bit uninfused getting my hands on the Chu 2. However, once the Chu 2 got some eartime, it has successfully justified its existence by introducing not only the much anticipated removable cable, but a beneficial byproduct of the healthy bass boost, which is a warmer tilt to the usual Moondrop house sound that is a welcomed breath of fresh air, not just from the Chu, but from Moondrop's whole catalog of IEMs. Moondrop not only avoided making a worse Chu as a follow-up, they were able to make a mid-season refresh in the Lan and the sequel in the Chu 2, which both hold their own. From that perspective, the Chu 2 is an impressive successor, if in a different vein to its older sibling. Chu 2, you crazy son of a Moondrop, you did it.